News Radio 97.7 and 1290 AM, WTKS.
7 o'clock. Bill and Laura here with you on AM Savannah. Always a pleasure to have you with us. And Fox News contributor, sales leadership analyst, making his debut with us here this morning, Jerry Acuff, talking about boomers versus millennials, how workplaces are changing. And Jerry, good morning to you. Welcome to Savannah. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Bill. Glad to be talking to you. Wish I were there.
Well, sir, and where are you exactly, Jerry?
I'm actually in Central Virginia.
All right. Are you any kin? There's another famous Acuff in the news. Are you any kin to? That's not a very common surname. Are you?
You mean like Roy Acuff?
That's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not in the will.
So it's kin, but not that close.
And let me tell you, I wish I was in the will more than I wish I was in Savannah.
I gotcha. All right, so millennial expectations, values, and skill set changing America's workplace. Changing it how, Jerry?
Well, in many ways. I mean, the reality is that I think by 2020, the projections are that, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 46% of the professional workforce will be millennials. Mm-hmm. I think there's 79 million millennials now. There's 76 million boomers, and so they are the future of work. And so the way they're changing it is the way they think about work. And they think about work differently. They think about relationships differently. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, they were raised differently. And so all of those things go to make for opportunities for understanding or misunderstanding the people that either you're going to work for, because in many cases now millennials are managing boomers, or in the opposite case, in my case, I'm a boomer, but I manage millennials, and mm-hmm. so it forces you to think about how they think differently.
We're talking with Jerry Acuff, Fox News contributor, sales and leadership analyst, about boomers versus millennials. I myself am a boomer. Laura's somewhere in between.
I'm technically a boomer, but sometimes feel like a millennial. Maybe I'm Generation X,
yeah,
1970, but I know millennials start in 1981.
And Jerry, you talk about the different attitudes. I know a lot of people are saying, you know, it's very difficult. I see help wanted signs up all over the place and people complaining they can't find a job. Well, they can't find maybe the job they want. Well, take the one you don't want until you find the one you want, and let's have a work ethic. One of the reasons that Hispanics are so popular is the fact that they work harder than anybody else, is a general rule. They're very hard workers. They're very dedicated. Usually the first ones on the job and the last ones to leave. And you don't find that sometimes in the people that were born here.
Yeah, what's interesting though is, you know, I mentor 4 college basketball coaches, mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time with millennial athletes, and of course I have millennials working for me. And one of the things I find is that, you know, there's a lot of them that are hardworking. I mean, mm-hmm. a lot of them. It depends on, you know, the values that were instilled in them, I think, as they were growing up by either teachers, coaches, or especially parents.
Right.
And I think what you're talking about though is the millennials want purpose in their work, and so you know, a lot of these jobs that you're talking about, where there are openings, they don't create the kind of purpose that the millennials are looking for, and therefore they'd rather do nothing. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you find a millennial who loves doing what they're doing, they're some of the hardest working people I've ever met. Now, they work differently. You know, they don't think about work the way you and I do. You know, you go to work at a certain time and you get off at a certain time, and you do that for 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You know, they'll do it from 2 in the morning until, you know, noon. It's just mm-hmm. their mindset about work is differently. But you can find really, really hard-working millennials. I just think a lot of it you have to trace back to how they were raised. I mean, so many of these millennials had, and not so many is probably a lousy term, but, you know, but a good number of them had helicopter parents where they just sort of, things weren't perfect, they dove in and began to help them. And so they really didn't have anything but a fast food mentality. I mean, everything is quick. The relationships are quick. Their Snapchat, their Instagram, their Twitter, their Facebook. And they have not had, in many cases, the opportunity to actually persist at things until they succeed. Whereas when we grew up, the boomers, and I would submit to you that the generation X or Y, whichever one that came before the millennials, which my daughter's a part of, they grew up with a really strong understanding of work ethic. And the millennials don't mind working hard. They just only want to work hard at something that they love. Yeah. That's why they change jobs a lot.
Yeah. Jerry Acuff with us this morning, Fox News contributor and sales leadership analyst. And Jerry, I think one of the things that needs to be maybe drummed into some of them that don't see the worth of maybe cooking hamburgers at McDonald's is you can work your way up. That you can become the CEO of McDonald's by starting cooking the hamburgers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that that's the way of the world, and that is not going to change. Mm-hmm. What has to change, though, is that this is where I think the relationships are really important, because I think I wrote a book called The Relationship Edge in Business, and it's how do you get an edge by building relationships with people that you don't naturally connect with. Well, in many cases, if I'm a boomer, I don't naturally connect with a millennial. But if I do naturally connect with them and I build a relationship with them where they like me, trust me, admire me, respect me, then I can begin to coach them. You see, what we had bosses. They don't want bosses. They want coaches. Mm-hmm. But to be someone's coach, the term coach actually, was engendered back in the 1850s. It meant, if you want to go somewhere faster, more efficiently, you take a coach, a horse-drawn carriage.
Okay.
It means private tutor. If you're going to be their private tutor, you have to have a relationship with them. One of the things I tell the coaches that I mentor, I said, look, you need two mentors. You need a mentor that's older, that understands, the world and how the world is and what's going to change and what's not going to change. You also need a millennial as a mentor so that you can understand the things that you and I don't naturally understand. So I have two mentors. I have a 32-year-old young woman who's one of the most impressive people I've ever met. She's a millennial in every sense of the word. But, if I want to understand something about millennials, I go to Lindsay. If I want to understand something about, life in general or things that, perplex me, I go to Nate. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it is building relationships with people so you can understand them. I mean, I'm a big believer that, to sell Jane Brown what Jane Brown buys, you have to see the world through Jane Brown's eyes. And so what boomers have to do is to do a better job of understanding millennials. What millennials have to do is do a better job of understanding boomers.
Gotcha. Jerry, a pleasure. Wish we could talk more, but where can we go for more information?
My website, which is www.deltapoint, DELTAPOINT.com.
DeltaPoint.com. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Pleasure.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll have you back.
Take care.
All right, Jerry Acuff. I liked him.
Yeah.
Fox News contributor, sales leadership analyst, DeltaPoint.com.